Welcome to the Virtual Reality Reconstructionist, the podcast where we explore how cutting-edge technology is transforming law enforcement, forensic investigation, and public safety training. I'm your host, Dr. Roger Ryan Ryder, crash reconstructionist investigator and advocate for innovative training solutions. In today's episode, De-Escalation Nation, how VR and empathy are revolutionizing police training and community safety, we'll explore how immersive technology is helping officers strengthen empathy, sharpen ICAT de-escalation skills, and build trust with communities they serve. From virtual reality scenarios to real-world applications, we'll unpack the ways technology is bridging the gap between training and practice. Speaking of technology, this episode is partially created through the help of Google's Notebook LM. Let's get started.
Have you ever stopped to think about the sheer pressure police officers are under when they walk into a crisis call? It's incredibly complex, right? High-stakes situations where one decision, just a split-second one, can change everything.
Absolutely. Lives can change instantly.
And it really touches the core of, societal safety, the trust we have in law enforcement. It all kind of hinges on how these moments play out.
Yeah.
So today, we're doing a deep dive into de-escalation training for police. It's such a critical area, and it's constantly evolving to try and better serve officers and the communities they're part of.
Exactly. And for this deep dive, we've really gathered a lot of material. We've got recent stats that really light up the real-world effects of de-escalation.
Okay.
We've looked at policy guides, some fascinating research on how effective the training actually is, and importantly, insights from people on the ground. Seasoned pros like Ernie Stevens, mental health advocates too. Our mission here really is to unpack why this training is so important, look at some pretty innovative ways it's being done, especially using virtual and augmented reality, and then think about what the future might hold for safer interactions for everyone.
And you, listening, you're going to hear some things that might really make you pause. We'll touch on some surprising numbers about training hours, maybe even a benefit of de-escalation you hadn't thought about, something beyond just physical safety. Officer well-being, maybe?
Definitely part of it.
Okay, let's unpack this. So let's start with the basic why. Why de-escalation training now? Well, in recent years, public concern about police violence, it's definitely grown. No denying that.
Yeah, it's been very visible.
And that's led to this strong push for, more effective ways to handle tense situations without force. It's fundamentally about making things safer for everybody involved, the officers, the public, people in crisis.
It really is. It's a move towards maybe a more compassionate way of policing, one that values safety but also really respects individual rights.
That's a good way to put it.
And what's really striking in the sources is how clearly they lay out the benefits. This isn't just about, avoiding a fight. It actively prevents excessive force.
Which means fewer injuries.
Exactly. For civilians and for officers. Fewer confrontations mean officers are safer too. And beyond the immediate physical aspect, it builds that vital community trust.
Right. Showing a commitment.
Yeah, commitment to safety and rights. Plus, there are practical benefits for departments. Fewer legal risks, fewer costly lawsuits. And maybe most importantly, it helps officers make better decisions under intense pressure.
Sharper thinking in the moment.
Precisely. Leading to, hopefully, more thoughtful outcomes.
Now, it's worth remembering, these techniques, de-escalation, they weren't always front and center for police training.
No, not in the same way.
Before maybe 2014 or so, you mainly saw these skills being used in psychiatric settings, mental health facilities.
Specialized contexts.
But then, after some really high-profile incidents kind of put police interactions under a microscope, de-escalation quickly became a major focus for everyday policing, routine encounters.
It became clear it was needed more broadly.
So it's not totally new, but it's definitely an adaptation, right? Driven by events and public demand for a different approach.
And the impact of that adaptation, when you look at the numbers, it's pretty undeniable. The stats are really compelling.
Give us some examples.
Okay, so Camden Police Department, they put in comprehensive de-escalation training around 2015, 2016. They saw a 40% drop in serious use of force incidents. 40%.
Wow, that's huge.
It is. Or look at Louisville Metro PD. After they started their ICAT program that's integrating communications assessment and tactics, they reported a 28% cut in use of force incidents.
Oh.
And get this, a 36% reduction in injuries to their own officers.
36%. That's significant for officer safety alone.
Absolutely. And they also saw civilian injuries drop by 25%. And maybe the most striking one, Las Vegas PD. In 2014, after their program was up and running, they reported 0 incidents involving deadly force against unarmed civilians. 0.
0. That's incredible.
It is. And one more Dallas PD saw excessive force complaints plummet by 64% between 2009 and 2014 after they reformed training to really emphasize de-escalation.
So these numbers, they aren't just abstract figures. They tell a story, don't they?
They absolutely do. Real, tangible results. Saving lives, building trust. It works.
And this growing understanding seems to be reflected in policy, too. You mentioned the Law Enforcement De-Escalation Training Act of 2022.
Yes, that's a major signal. Over $34 million for national curriculum, plus another $90 million for local training programs.
That's serious investment. It shows this is being taken seriously at a national level.
It really does. And it also points to this broader shift in society. Increasingly, officers are finding themselves acting as, well, de facto mental health professionals.
Because the dedicated services aren't always there.
Exactly. There's often a lack of accessible mental health crisis services across the country. So police become the first responders, sometimes the only responders, when someone's in mental distress.
So the goal becomes different.
Right. The goal shifts towards diverting people away from the criminal justice system and towards the right kind of care. One source put it really well. It's not about crime reduction, it's about service provision.
Service provision. That really reframes the role, doesn't it?
It fundamentally changes how we think about what police are there to do in many situations.
Okay, that service provision idea is powerful. But even though everyone seems to agree de-escalation is important, the actual training on the ground, it looks very different depending on where you are.
Oh, hugely different. There's tremendous variability, as one report put it.
The numbers are kind of shocking. Like Indianapolis PD gave 232 hours of de-escalation training in 2018.
Okay, that sounds substantial.
But compare that to Georgia State Patrol, just 1 hour that same year?
Yeah.
1 hour. And Philadelphia, 5 hours.
1 versus 232.
Yeah,
that's stark. A massive gap for such a crucial skill.
It really highlights an imbalance, doesn't it? Especially when you compare it to other types of training.
It really does. If you look at academy training, police recruits get, on average, a median of just 8 hours of de-escalation training. 8.
Okay, versus
a median of 58 hours of firearms training and 49 hours on defensive tactics.
58 on firearms, 49 on defense, 8 on talking someone down.
Exactly. That imbalance really shows a core challenge in preparing officers for what they actually spend most of their time doing, which is often communication and crisis intervention, not necessarily physical force.
And it's not just about clocking hours, is it? There's the human side. Officers can feel threatened. That's natural.
Of course, it's a dangerous job.
And that fear, unfortunately, can make using force more likely. Before Louisville Metro PD did their big training push, something like 85% of their officers thought they had a good chance of being assaulted on the job. 85%.
That's a high level of perceived threat.
Yeah. And Ernie Stevens, the former officer we mentioned, he talks about this. He says things like patience, empathy, they're vital, but they're really hard to teach effectively in a traditional classroom setting.
Abstract concepts.
Plus, the reality is departments are often short-staffed. Officers are rushing from call to call, taking that extra time, being patient. It's tough under those conditions.
The pressure is immense.
Stevens really pushes officers to try and focus on the person and not the problem, make that human connection.
That's key. But there are bigger system issues too, right? Beyond just the individual officer's training.
Definitely.
Like, what about dispatchers? They're the first contact. Do they get enough training, clear policies on how to handle calls involving mental health crises? Often. Not really.
That initial context sets the tone.
Completely. Then there's the problem of where officers can actually take someone in crisis. Psychiatric emergency facilities, are they readily available? Do they have no refusal policies?
Meaning they have to accept the person.
Yeah, many don't. Or there aren't formal agreements. So officers can end up waiting for hours trying to hand someone over, getting frustrated while they're needed back out on the street.
That ties into what Stevens was saying about EMTALA education for officers, right? Knowing the rules about emergency treatment access.
Exactly. Knowing how to navigate the healthcare system side. And then you have legal hurdles in some states needing actual evidence of a crime before you can transport someone for a mental health evaluation, even if they clearly need help.
making it harder to intervene early.
Right. And don't forget rural areas. They face unique challenges. Huge distances to travel for services, fewer resources overall, sometimes more social stigma around mental health.
What happens?
Sometimes, sadly, people end up detained in jail, even without charges, just because there's literally nowhere else equipped to handle them safely.
Wow. So it becomes clear, like you said, this is way bigger than just a training course.
Absolutely. It has to be a comprehensive approach. You need to revise department policies to actually support de-escalation tactics.
Like Louisville did alongside their training.
Exactly. Their drop in use of force happened alongside policy changes in 2015 and 2016. And it can't be a one-off training. It needs to be continuous.
Officers want that too, right?
Yeah. Nearly 40% say they want refresher courses more often. They know the skills need practice. But looking at these challenges, it really sets the stage for why new approaches are so needed. And that brings us to something really interesting.
Okay, we've talked about the why, the clear need and benefits and the challenges, the inconsistencies, the system gaps. Now let's shift to the solutions. And this is where it gets really exciting, potentially game-changing.
Mm-hmm.
We're talking about virtual reality, VR, and augmented reality, AR, and how they're starting to revolutionize de-escalation training.
Yeah, this is a genuinely exciting development because these aren't just, fancy gadgets. They seem to actually enhance and move beyond some limits of traditional training.
Yes.
Well, recent studies are showing that both VR training and the more traditional live-action role-playing scenarios, they produce similar improvements in conflict resolution skills.
So VR is just as good.
It seems to be a viable and accessible training tool, as one study put it. Think about it. VR lets officers practice these tactics by stepping into simulated real-life situations, but in a totally controlled environment.
Safe practice.
Exactly. Safe practice for high-stress encounters without any real-world danger. It's about building that muscle memory for communication, for empathy, under pressure, not just for physical defense.
You're building reflexes for talking, not just reacting physically. Can you walk us through what that actually looks like, a VR scenario?
Sure. Imagine a common call. Maybe an officer finds someone in a public space who seems really agitated, maybe yelling, disoriented, clearly in some kind of distress.
Okay.
In the VR simulator, the officer is fully immersed. They see the park, they hear the sounds, they see the virtual person in front of them. They have to decide how to approach.
So they talk to the avatar.
Yeah. They use their own voice. They might try starting calm, asking an open question. Hey, are you okay? Can I help? And the virtual person, controlled by AI or an instructor, reacts. Maybe they get more agitated, maybe they shut down, maybe they make a vague threat.
Unpredictable, like real life.
Exactly. And the officer gets to experiment safely. What happens if I step too close? What if my tone gets sharp? They can practice active listening, watch the avatar's body language for cues, and adjust their approach on the fly.
And if they mess up?
If they say something that escalates things, no real harm done, the instructor can pause it, give instant feedback, say, okay, let's rewind. What if you tried this instead? They get to learn from mistakes without real consequences.
That immediate feedback loop must be powerful.
Incredibly powerful. It helps them refine their own emotional regulation in stressful moments and actually apply the techniques they learned about, like patience and empathy, in a dynamic way. Things that are hard to practice otherwise.
That makes sense. And we're seeing this used in interesting ways, not just for police. You mentioned Burlington, Massachusetts.
Right. That's a fantastic example. Their police department got a Virtual simulator back in 2020, initially for their own officers.
Standard use case.
But then they had this insight, hey, we could use this to train civilians too.
Civilians? Who?
This is the really innovative part. They targeted places with high public interaction, like hospitals, shopping malls, and they trained the private, unarmed security staff there.
Ah, the first line of defense in those places.
Exactly. The program wasn't just VR. It included lectures on practical de-escalation techniques. Then they got hands-on practice in the simulator.
And how did the security folks find it?
The feedback was overwhelmingly positive. They reported feeling more confident, more knowledgeable, and crucially, they talked about successfully using the skills in real situations afterward.
So it's like pre-de-escalation.
That's a perfect term for it. Civilians handling situations calmly before they escalate to the point where police need to step in with force. It makes officers safer because the situation is less volatile when they arrive, and it frees up police resources.
A ripple effect of calm, almost.
Kinda, yeah. It builds a whole community that's more skilled at managing crisis moments peacefully.
Oh, plus there's an efficiency angle here too,
Yeah.
right? With the technology.
Oh, definitely. These systems mean often one trainer can train multiple people across a huge range of scenarios. You don't need lots of extra instructors or role players for every session.
Saves time, saves money.
Often, yeah. It can be lower cost for the agency compared to staging complex live role plays repeatedly. It helps tackle those training hour inconsistencies we talked about by making quality scenario training more accessible.
More scalable.
Exactly, scalable and standardized. So pulling all this together, what we're seeing is that de-escalation training. It's not just a nice idea. It's proven. It works.
The data backs it up.
Unequivocally. It significantly reduces use of force, cuts down injuries for everybody, and really helps rebuild or strengthen community trust. And importantly, these positive effects seem to last over time. It's not just a temporary bump.
Which shows it's a worthwhile, enduring investment.
Absolutely. It's a fundamental shift.
But despite all that proof, those challenges we discussed earlier, the systemic issues, the need for consistent training, they still exist. We need continued commitment, right?
We absolutely do. And Ernie Stevens' perspective here is really valuable. He stresses that leadership is key. They need to foster a true, robust program, something that integrates wellness and collaboration. It can't just be a check-the-box training exercise.
Just going through the motions isn't enough.
Not at all. He also highlights the power of having mental health professionals, clinicians, actually embedded within police departments.
How does that help?
Two ways, really. They can provide immediate support on scene during a crisis call, offering expertise the officer might not have. But just as importantly, they become a resource for the officers themselves, a place for them to debrief, to get support. It builds that culture of well-being from the inside.
Supporting the responders, that makes sense.
And looking forward, this is where the technology like VR and AR really connects back. It offers a practical way to address those big inconsistencies in training hours and quality across the country.
Because it's standardized and scalable.
Exactly. Standardized, effective, scalable. It provides a powerful platform for that advanced scenario training, which is so vital for skill building. And it makes delivering those ongoing refresher courses the in-service training officers want much more feasible.
Keeps the skills sharp.
Precisely.
And thinking beyond just police officers, that Burlington example really opens up possibilities, doesn't it?
It really does. It strongly suggests we should think about expanding this kind of training much more widely.
Like, who else could benefit?
Think about bartenders, retail workers dealing with difficult customers, school administrators, ER nurses, paramedics, anyone who regularly interacts with the public in potentially stressful situations.
Wow, that's a broad group.
Imagine a community where all those people have some basic de-escalation skills. They could prevent situations from becoming dangerous and volatile by calming people down before violence erupts.
It's proactive safety built into the community fabric.
Exactly. Empowering everyone to be part of the solution, not just relying on police as the only responders to crisis.
So, this blend of human skills, empathy, communication, boosted by technology, it feels like a powerful combination for the future.
It really does. And it raises a really important question for all of us, I think.
What a journey through this topic. We've seen the clear, undeniable need for effective de-escalation training, looked at the hard data showing its positive impact, and explored how technology like VR and AR holds truly transformative potential. It's about making our community safer, yes, but also making our first responders more effective, more supported, and maybe even safer themselves. It feels like a vital evolution.
It really is. And maybe the thought to leave you with is this. Consider how embracing these advanced training methods, not just within law enforcement, but expanding them out to key community members, like we discussed, how that could fundamentally redefine what safety even means.
Moving beyond just the absence of crime.
Exactly. Moving beyond just the absence of crime towards the active presence of well-being, of understanding, and potentially every interaction. Think about your own role, perhaps, in understanding and maybe even promoting de-escalation in your world. How this human-focused approach, powered by smart technology, is really shaping the future of how we live together.
Thank you for listening to the Virtual Reality Reconstructionist. If today's conversation on VR, empathy, and de-escalation sparked your interest, be sure to subscribe so you don't miss future episodes. For more insights, resources, and training opportunities, visit us at rrinvestigations.com and follow our work on LinkedIn, YouTube, and Facebook. I'm Dr. Ryan Ryder, reminding you that innovation in public safety isn't about replacing tradition, but about strengthening it with tools that prepare us for tomorrow. Until next time, stay safe, stay prepared, and keep moving forward.